If it's Tuesday, that means live iRacing from Slingshot Racing Media. Welcome everybody, I'm Ellis Thomas, joined in the booth tonight by Chris Smith and Daniel Paulus Jr. We're bringing you live racing action from Votive Racing League. It's the Sunset Showdown in the 1987 NASCAR stock cars from Daytona. In the heart of Florida, where sun and speed collide, Daytona International Speedway was born. In 1959, this masterpiece emerged from the sands of the beach, an ambitious project to create a haven for racing's titans. The track is so big that engineers had to take into account the curvature of the earth when building it. The banking was made from the dirt dug out from the area that Lake Lloyd now sits in the infield. That steep 31-degree banking means these drivers aren't going to be spending a lot of time off throttle, which is going to lead to high speeds and little room for error. One mistake can lead to the big one, which has claimed hundreds of cars over the course of Daytona's tenure on the NASCAR schedule. The inaugural 500 in 1959, won by Lee Petty, marked the beginning of a tradition that would shape NASCAR's legacy. But it was the epic battles of Petty and Pearson that wrote some of racing's most iconic chapters. The 79 Daytona 500, a battle between Petty and Yarborough, drew national TV audience, making history and launching NASCAR into the mainstream. Tonight, though, we travel back to 1987. In that race, Bill Elliott put on a masterclass, dominating the field to clinch his second career victory at NASCAR's most prestigious race. Driving the number 9 Ford Thunderbird, Elliott led 104 of 200 laps. Chris, I just mentioned some iconic names a moment ago. What are drivers going to have to do tonight to add their name to that list of Daytona winners?
Well, if they want to etch their name in the legacy of Daytona International Speedway, they're going to have their hands full with these 1987 stock cars tonight. This is not the Daytona or the Talladega or any super speedway that you see today, the type of action that you'll see here tonight. We've got 80 laps around this 2.5 mile super speedway, about 40 laps on a tank of fuel, so if we do happen to go green to the end, I don't think that's going to happen. It could create an interesting scenario coming to the checkered flag right here. We've got 24 cars here, and we're going to get to it in our stories, but we got a lot on the line as far as money and bragging rights is concerned.
There is a lot on the line in terms of money and bragging rights. We'll talk about that, Chris, in the stories to set up the race for our race fans. If you're just joining us for the first time at Slingshot Racing Media, we previously raced at Slingshot Racing League, but tonight we're setting out on a new path as broadcasters. We appreciate you joining us. We're going to follow up here with a Slingshot Racing fan favorite tradition. Everyone rise and remove your caps if able for the playing of the national anthem. We'll be back on the other end. All right, back here from the virtual Daytona Speedway, it's the Votive Racing League Sunset Showdown. Thanks for sticking around during the national anthem. It's Ellis Thomas, Chris Smith, and Daniel Paulus here in the booth. Every race, we like to set up the race for all the viewers at home with some storylines. And for all those viewers watching right now, shout out to John Rapp, Connor Lyons, and everyone else who's in the chat, including Braxton D. But let's talk about, Chris, the stories to keep an eye on during this race as qualifying gets underway. First of all, it's one race. There's no points. This is a one-off special event. There is $300 on the line tonight, Chris, including $180 for the winner. How does that change your mentality from a points-paying race or a league race, so to speak?
Well, there's no points racing tonight, so there is no sorry about that.
You got a copy?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had a little problem there. So there's no points on the line right here, so you let it all hang out, and you got that $300 on the line right there. So there's a lot on the line for a lot of these drivers here tonight.
We're probably going to see a lot of aggression, and it's a real big question of risk versus reward anytime you go to a super speedway or plate-type track. Tonight, that's not going to be any different. Daniel, you've raced on iRacing. You've called iRacing races. How aggressive are you in the early stages of this race versus the later stages? When does that really pushing maybe begin from the drivers?
Oh, yeah. So when you're racing at any plate track, whether it's Daytona, Talladega, or I would consider Atlanta now as a super speedway type drafting track. But, if you're a driver, you're starting the race off, you want to see how your car's handling, see how it is in the draft, see how it is out of the draft. And, once you start feeling comfortable, you're going to see the driver start making a little more aggressive bumps, aggressive moves, might see 3 wide, but don't forget, this is an older style car, so it's going to be a lot more trickier to handle. And, if you push on somebody the wrong way, that could send them around, cause a big one. Or, we might stay green the whole way where we're coming down to the white flag. You may be leading that white flag, but you may not collect the checker flag if something terrible goes wrong.
Yeah, Daniel, you made a great point. This race is anything but predictable, so you got to keep your nose clean. You have to be careful. Strategic contact is going to be something we see. You have to pick and choose when you push the driver in front of you. It's a different track. We'll talk about that throughout the night, but this is not your typical car on a typical super speedway. These drivers are going to have to finesse it. We'll be talking about that throughout the race. You've also got to have friends on pit road. Chris, why do you not want to come down pit road here at Daytona alone?
Well, if you pit and you come to pit road alone, you're not going to have enough speed exiting pit road. You're not going to have enough, the drafting partners, because it's all about that lap after you make your pit stop. You want to try to gain as much ground as you can on the drivers who maybe are still out on the track. You want to try to be organized, be in a really, really tight draft. And if you don't gain that ground that you need to gain on them and they have a good in-lap, then you're going to be out of the draft and you're going to be in big trouble for the finish of this race.
Yeah, I think everyone in this booth has fallen victim to either a bad pit stop at a super speedway like Daytona or Talladega, or coming down with no friends, or maybe even a penalty on that pit stop. And it's one you want to avoid. You also want to avoid the big one. Daniel mentioned that just a moment ago. We're seeing some chat right now about that on our YouTube chat. If you haven't jumped into the chat yet, let us know you're here. Say hello. We're actually going to be playing some trivia later tonight. One of you in the chat's going to have a chance to win a die-cast car. We're also going to reveal who won the big 1/24th scale Dale Jr. autographed die-cast car later on in the race. But you got to avoid the big one. It's going to happen. Maybe not, but I think most of us, if we were to make a judgment call, would probably agree we're going to see some wrecks tonight. It's the nature of plate racing. It's the nature of these cars. They're very difficult to drive, and we mentioned it, $300 worth of cash on the line tonight. So just about 30 seconds left in qualifying. Paul Thomas just joined the chat. Appreciate Disc Golf Course Maps. I'm really curious about what that channel might be about, but Liz Marie as well. We're excited you're here as well, commenting. You got a fan, Daniel, already. You got a fan with Lisa Marie. So everyone who's in the chat joining us tonight. We appreciate it. We're getting ready for 80 laps of racing, Chris. It is going to be a wild one. We're going to talk about the history of some of these cars in the 1980s, some special 80-themed trivia. So maybe some of our older friends in the chat might have a chance to win a prize later on. Hey, BB in the chat. Let's go ahead as qualifying comes to an end. Find out where these drivers are going to be starting on the grid tonight. We've actually got a warm-up of 5 minutes, Chris, so we're going to have to vamp here and fill just a little bit. Last time we raced these cars, I think maybe you and I had some contact going through the tri-oval for a moment. You remember that?
I do remember that, yeah, and that's something to keep an eye on tonight. I think that we're going to have to really watch how close these drivers are to each other, because if you enter the corners and, with these unrestricted cars and you are super, super close to the guy in front of you, you don't even have to be touching them. You can just, get close to them on corner entry or entry to the tri-oval like what we ran into. Then you can definitely upset that car in front of you. So, yeah, we're going to have to keep an eye on that tonight.
Sorry, we had to take a quick break there to check on some technical things. We are back, Chris. We were just talking about that incident at Daytona. It feels like it was a year or so ago. But, yeah, you mentioned it. You got to be careful. I was watching several drivers in the practice last night with just how squirrely and upset these cars were getting through the tri-oval. One of the most dangerous places at what seemingly a very kind of mundane area that drivers might take for granted could be a problem spot we might see. If I'm going back to that practice race from last night as well, several drivers, when these cars get upset, Chris, they go up the track and there's not really any hanging on to them. I think we're going to be on the lookout for drivers kind of getting upset. The aero balance of these cars is just a little bit different. So one thing I want to point out is we watched that jet land outside Daytona International Speedway on the runway. These cars, when they reach their peak down the backstretch right before going in to turn number 4, Chris, turn number 3, they're going 14 miles an hour. That is faster than those jets landing on the runway at the airline or the airfield right behind Daytona Speedway. So, again, these cars, it's a different ball game. Paul Thomas says by the way, he was in the chat. He says these cars are brutes to drive. So, we've got several drivers in the chat who can attest to just how difficult these cars are going to be with those high speeds. There are no restrictor plate on these things, and we're going to talk about why that is the case a little bit later in the race. Daniel, do you have any experience running these cars or watching these cars?
Well, no, I really haven't ran these cars. I usually run the next-gen cars, Xfinity cars, truck cars, ARCA, all the modern stuff now. But there was this one time that I did race these cars on my other account, my old account, and we went to Talladega. It's kind of like Daytona, but a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. But what I noticed with this car, it's a lot more squirrely in the draft. You're not connecting bumpers more often with the next-gen car. It's like, imagine you're side drafting, you're going to slingshot somebody. It's not a smooth sail. It's going to bump you back and forth. And when that happens, it's really hard to control the car. So when you're in that situation, it's really hard. But, what I like to do is I like to pull the wheel to the right a little bit as I'm doing that. And it kind of straightens it out a little bit to make it smoother. But I see a lot of drivers struggle with that and they spin themselves out.
Yeah, these cars did not have power steering back in the day. They are a handful to drive, and I think it would be a good opportunity as the warm-up comes to a close to maybe hear from one of these drivers in the race right now. We're going to try to grab a word with Scotty Sobczak real quick. Hey, Scotty Sobczak, this is Ellis, Chris, and Daniel in the booth. You got a quick copy, my friend?
Hey, I got a copy for you.
Hey, we're going to grab you for just a second if you don't mind. We were just having a discussion about how difficult these cars are to really manhandle around the track. Talk to us about what you're doing to keep the car in one piece and make it around and what the challenges are.
Man, well, it's one piece so far, but you really got to just lift coming into each corner. It's not like a truck or one of the other Cup cars where you can flat-footed around this place. It takes a little bit of nuance, a little bit of pedal control to coerce it around the turns, and you got to watch out for coming off of 4 you don't slap the wall. So we'll see what happens, but trying to keep it in one piece.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a challenge out there. We'll be keeping an eye on that number 81 Pine Mountain Auto Supply car as it makes its way around the track tonight. Good luck out there, buddy. We appreciate you taking a moment.
Yeah, 10-4.
All right, so the warm-up has come to an end officially, which means we're going to hear from our starting lineup and figure out where these drivers are going to be starting on the evening. Let's go ahead and pull up that grid right now as they get set. Waiting for it to pre-populate on my end, but Chris, it is going to be some new names at the front with a couple of rookies that we've seen before, but not at Daytona. On the pole tonight, it is going to be the number 45 of Jeff Byers, and alongside him, it's going to be a Slingshot 1987 familiar face, Sam Oliver, in the number 10. He's going to be one who's running for that money tonight. He'll be up front early. That's a guarantee. Steve Vest, surprised during the practice race a couple of nights ago, and once again, I don't know if it's a surprise, but he's going to be starting third in that number 6 car. James Ledford, a super speedway specialist, if you will, is going to be starting fourth on the outside of row 2. Cliff Adams in the 98 is going to be on the inside of row 3. He's going to have to come from 5th tonight. Noah Blackwell is going to have to come to the front from 6th tonight. Number 23, David Flanagan, going to be starting 7th with Joseph Sullivan to his outside in the number 76. Then it's going to be Johnny Rapp, a Slingshot fan favorite with some fans in the chat right now. Going to be starting from 9th with Patrick O'Toole, an experienced Slingshot racer, in the number 44 starting 10th. Anthony Green going to be starting 11th. Josh Ward, 12th. He's going to be a multiple-time Super Speedway winner. He's going to be looking to come forward tonight from 12th. Tom Lickert in 13th, starting in that number 1 Kmart car tonight. We talked to Scotty Sobczak. He's got his work cut out for him if he's going to make it to victory lane, starting 14th, followed by Scott Schrader, 15th, Shane Coker, 16th, Josh Ryan in the 18, starting from 17th position tonight. Tadarius Purse starting 18th in that 15. That lovely purple car. I like the looks of that. Josh Cruz starting 19th. It's Aiden O'Neill in the 87 coming from 20th tonight. Julian Mata in the 21 starts 21st. Brandon Sox, he ran the inaugural Slingshot Racing 1987 season. He's a speedy driver. He's going to be up front, I would imagine, pretty early on the move, followed by Chase Berry, another driver we've seen with some super speedway wins. I believe, Chris, he might have won the last super speedway race in Slingshot Racing League.
I think that you're right. So, yeah, those two guys right there coming from the back of the field, they're going to be two that we're definitely going to be keeping an eye on because they are super, super fast.
They are very fast indeed. Daniel, any last words of wisdom for these drivers as we get ready to pull those belts tight one last time in the words of Larry Mack before we go green?
Well, all I can say, guys, is it's $300 on the line tonight, and nobody is safe, even if you're in the front, back, middle. I don't care where you are, but you are not safe at Daytona, no matter what. You're not going to have friends. You're not going to have drafting partners because they will leave you in the dust because it's every man for himself here to get that checkered flag. Again, earlier on in the pre-race, I said you could be leading that white flag, but there's no guarantee you're going to be coming home with that checkered flag and that $300.
This race is going to have a lot of story arcs over the course of 80 laps, and the first one's going to begin now. Is Jeff Byers going to lead him through the tri-oval from the pole? We're underway. Byers is going to get off to a quick start. It's going to be Sam Oliver on that outside. It's a battle for second. Oliver gets turned early. Several cars to the inside of turn 1. We're under yellow right away. Several cars going to be involved in this. The good news is for them, there is a quick repair.
Yeah, and you know, with these 1987 cars, it is easy to miss a shift. So I don't want to speculate, but I just know I've been there before. I've done it before. I know that's possibly what might have occurred. So we're going to go back and see if we can figure out what might have happened here.
I think James Ledford might have gotten into the back of the 10 of Sam Oliver after Oliver checked up or maybe missed a shift based on first glance.
Yeah, we'll go all the way back right here, and we will find Sam Oliver right here in the 10. James Ledford, yeah, you mentioned right behind him right here. You know, Sam Oliver runs these things a lot, so I'm a little bit surprised if that's maybe what happened. Yeah. Oh, man, and it creates a big old mess right there. Johnny Rapp, Steve Vest. Looks like we got the 22 as well involved. Josh Cruz, Patrick O'Toole in the 44. Got a tire going down right there. So go back again right here and see if we can. Actually, let's ride on board with Sam Oliver and see if we can hear possibly a missed shift. Oh yeah, it's a missed shift, all right. That's what it sounded like, at least. And it's just easy to do in these things. It is very, very easy to do, and you know, James Ledford's just got the bumper to him, trying to push him, and you'll hear it over rev right here. Yeah, that's just, that happens sometimes in these cars.
Yeah, if you're just joining us right now, caution, headed into turn 1. Driver Sam Oliver, who we had kind of pinpointed as one of the favorites, missed a shift, and that kind of bottlenecked the whole field up, and there was nowhere to go for a lot of these drivers. Now, the good news is, for these drivers, there is one quick repair. The bad news is, Daniel, that they're using it early. How frustrated are you as a driver if you're in this race right now?
Well, you got to think about it. You know, we didn't even get one full lap in, and we already had a big one, like we predicted, because you could go to Daytona and you know something's going to happen like this. And when these drivers use their, you know, their, what is it called? The reset, I would say, their second chance, it's frustrating as a driver because, you know, if you get involved in another wreck, you're going to either end up with a damaged race car, you're not going to have the pace, or B, you're going to be completely out of this race, and you didn't even have a legitimate shot at it. So, I mean, it's all man for himself. I mean, we could see it happen again. We might see a lot of these drivers be more careful shifting these cars, knowing what they just saw, or we might see drivers, you know, taking it easy going on into this restart. So it's kind of up in the air right now, but, you know, a lot of people got collected in that one. I'm sure they're not happy.
Yeah, I would imagine we've got some unhappy drivers as we make our way around now. It's lap number 3 of 80. Caution came out on lap 1. You're not getting the one to go quite yet, Chris. I'm wondering if we might be able to pull in Josh Ward and see what he heard or saw from this wreck real quick.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh Ward, it's Ellis and Chris and Daniel in the booth. You got a very quick copy, my friend.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Hey, we're good. I'm glad you don't mind us pulling you in. Not that we gave you much of a choice, but we're grateful. Hey, what did you see there? We know that there was a stack up at the front. We think it was a missed shift on part of one of the cars. What did you experience a little bit further behind?
Yeah, there was definitely a stack up. I shot the outside before the start-finish line, and glad I didn't get a penalty for it, but it was either that or running the back of someone. And I don't know, smoke just started, and cars went everywhere, and we started wrecking. But 92 feels okay. I only had 7 seconds of damage, so let's get this thing going.
All right, man. Got a quick. Did you use your quick repair?
I did not.
Okay. All right. Well, that is one
call
in the bank for a little bit later. Yeah, absolutely. We'll let you get back to it, man. Good luck. We'll be keeping an eye on the 92 tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I do think that was a good call.
Yeah, and we were watching right there. He did get turned around, but I did not see much in the way of damage. He didn't take many hard licks. So, and that's something that I wanted to bring up, Ellis, was, Daniel brought up the quick repair, and yeah, you do have access to that. But I'm going to be curious to see how many of these cars maybe are still slightly damaged a little bit because they're holding on to that quick repair, thinking that, you know what, might take some bigger damage later on.
It's a gamble.
Yep.
Daniel was talking earlier about how unpredictable this race. We're seeing it play out. One chat I want to note, Chris. Connor says he's having a baby sister next year, and he's promised to name her Slingshot Racing. So that's what he said.
I wonder how that's going to go over with Mom.
He didn't say that, but it would be pretty cool if they did. We know that would never happen. Please don't actually do that. Paul in the chat says already not surprised there was a caution. He says it was senseless. But But we'll see how maybe they'll get it back under a little bit calmer going here. Just about half a lap less, actually, now away from green. We're going to be coming to lap 5 of 80. It's a 200-mile race here. $300 on the line if you're just joining us tonight. It's already been wild. Let's see if we can get a couple of green flag laps under our belts. It's going to be Jeff Byers again on the inside pole. It's going to be Anthony Green to his outside. So kind of a new front row, or at least a new half front row. It's still going to be Jeff Byers in that 45, getting him underway. Pace car pulls off. We're getting ready to mash those throttles. We're back underway here at Daytona. Right now, a bit of a cleaner start. Anthony Green still to that outside. It's a 2-car battle for the lead. It settles down to a 1-car battle. The 2-car battle's back for third as the 1 of Tom Lickert looks to the inside of the A3 of Scott Schrader in that blue and yellow car. Right now, they're side by side. A couple of battles going on through the track right now, side by side. Right now, it's Lickert on the inside. They're going to do a duel down the super stretch here at Daytona, wiggling back and forth just a little bit. A couple of cars maneuver to get to the inside, headed down into turn 1, not wanting to be on that dreaded outside. Schrader's fearless as he sends it down into turn 3. 1 car, that's Purse into the wall. Back around 15th, he gathers it back up. It's going to be Lickert still on the inside. It looks like Schrader might win that battle, but we'll see about the war.
Yeah, a nice little start right there for the 45 of Byers. He's able to get out there, get a good launch, and yeah, Michigan don't have much in the way of teammates in this field right here. I'll be watching Sobzak and Ward to see if they work together with Patrick O'Toole, but we'll learn about these alliances that might come about later on, but I don't know if we'll trust them for sure for the whole race.
Yeah, I think we've got several kind of lone wolves. I think the kids call them Sigmas, Chris. I don't know about you if that's what they're saying where you work, but right now, Anthony Green, or Cliff Adams, I should say, in that 98, he is all alpha on the outside here, trying to do battle with Jeff Byers to become the second leader of the race. It's not going to happen that lap as they head through the tri-oval back down into 1. It's going to be Byers, the pole sitter, to the inside. Cliff Adams to the outside. They've got Anthony Green and Scott Schrader right behind them. It's a bit of a 4-car breakaway, about 4 car lengths back to James Ledford in that second pack. Battle for the lead continues down the super stretch. Green's giving a big old helping to Jeff Byers on that inside as he pushes him by the number 98 of Cliff Adams, who right now is friendless, what they call a lone wolf.
Yeah, and up there on the top like that, we've run these 87s enough to know that,
car in the walls for 25. Noah Blackwell's going to bring out the second caution.
He saved it.
Fortunately, he gathers it back up after a 360-degree spin. That is some stunt driving right there that would make Stanton Barrett proud, Chris. He puts us under caution, but he did a whale of a job staying out of the rest of the field. Chase Berry rolls through the infield a little bit, but there doesn't look to be too much damage on there.
Yeah, we'll go back and watch this. I did hear some tire squealing behind it, but I could not tell who it was. But yeah, we'll look at Blackwell right here. He's on the outside. Tagged the wall, down into that car on the inside, and it lifted up. I thought it was going to go over and perform a blowover. We saw a couple of those this past weekend in Michigan. But it settled back down on all fours, and he did a really nice job of not overcorrecting, not panicking. Keeping that steering wheel straight, so when it eventually settled back down, he was in good shape. We're going to ride on board right here. I'm going to take the ticker away so you can see his hands to your left right there. He's to the outside of Josh Ward right here. Look at the outside. You get really tight on the outside in these cars. That car lifted back up, and yeah, nice hands.
Yeah, nice hands so far of the race. Couple of wrecks, but the second one not as bad as it could have been because the 25 right now did an excellent job. Blackwell kept it out of the wall, and Chris, Connor is on it, man. He said the caution was going to come out on lap 7, and unfortunately, I guess he was right. A couple other comments in the chat right now. J-Dub says, if Chase Berry wins this race, I'll never speak to him again. Well, Chase Berry's probably going to want to win this race right now, J-Dub. Paul Thomas, wow, what a save. I know Thomas was rooting on Steve Vest, who's out of the race right now with severe damage after starting from third tonight, getting caught up in that early incident. A couple of cars come down pit road. I believe Jeff Byers, Chris, our pole sitter, came down pit road here. What do we make of that strategy? Taking fuel early, maybe. That was definitely a fuel pit stop, I think.
Yeah, he might just be trying to set himself up for later. We got the 15 car of Sedarius Purse right here. I'm not sure what he's doing. I think he might be confused about where his pit stall is, but I think he'll find it here. I think he's trying to back into it. He don't want to do another lap around here, is what I think is what he's trying to do.
Yeah. And these cars, as we watch him turn around a little bit, they are not easy to turn. You and I have both set foot in these cars and driven them quite a bit. They are no easy task for sure as we watch Patrick O'Toole on pit road. The 5 of Chase Berry pulls off. We've got a couple. Connor says, I love the Davey Allison, Darrell Waltrip paint jobs. Absolutely. 2 of the classics, Connor, man. Daniel, what have you noticed so far in just these first 7 laps or so out of the way these guys are driving?
Well, what I'm noticing is a lot of drivers look like they're struggling with the handling of their car. Like we mentioned, it's really hard because there's no power steering on these vehicles. So you're really, putting all your effort into steering this car. And don't forget, you're going 180 to 200 miles per hour around this track. So that's pretty fast without power steering and pretty hard without power steering. But what also I'm seeing is I'm seeing drivers come down pit road now under this caution. So the drivers that came down pit road, they're thinking of just getting some fuel. And that's then, like we said, the fuel is around lap 40. So maybe if a caution comes out around lap 40, they're not going to come down. They're going to be in front of the pack. To those of the drivers who didn't pit earlier on right now, they're going to have to come down pit road later on. So it's kind of up in the air right now on strategy. But what is the best position that you can put yourself in? And I think they made the right call by coming down pit road and getting some fuel. But also what I'm seeing out of these drivers is, they were leaned back a little bit on that restart. We had a 4-car breakaway. It looks like they're trying to learn to draft a little bit. So I think they're going to get better and better on as the night goes on. But I think what we're going to see is we're going to see this continuous where we might see a big one because, like I said earlier on, that draft is what causes that to happen.
Yeah, we're going to see more drafting as the night goes on. Chris, speed is going to be at a premium here as the night begins to set in. It is the Sunset Showdown here from Daytona for Votive Racing League, being broadcast right now on Slingshot Racing Media. I'm Ellis Thomas, joined by Chris Smith and Daniel Paulus in the chat. About half a lap away right now from the restart. Cars headed down the super stretch or the back stretch. It's Anthony Green on the inside. He's going to be your leader after the leader of the 15 just pitted a little bit earlier. It's going to be Anthony Green and Scott Schrader on the front row, followed by Cliff Adams and James Ledford in 3rd and 4th. Hey, everyone in the chat, let us know who you're rooting for. We're going to be asking some trivia also in the chat here in a moment. We're going to play a little game with the winner ultimately winning a small 1/64th scale diecast. We'll ship it to you absolutely free of charge. We do lots of giveaways here on Slingshot Racing Media during these broadcasts, which is a great reason why you should subscribe to the channel by clicking that subscribe button and liking this video if you haven't already done so. It's absolutely free and doesn't cost you a thing. Okay? What is worth some money tonight also is $300 on the line, $180 to the winner. Green and Schrader both want that check at the end of the night. Pace car is going to pull off, and they're going to make their statements here on this restart. Getting ready to go Green, coming to lap 11. Green gets off to a great start. He's going to bring Adams with him on the inside. Schrader trapped on the outside. Ledford maneuvers down to the inside, as we've seen so many drivers do tonight. They're going to wrap it down into turn number 1. Schrader's got, it looks like, the 76 car of Joseph Sullivan pushing him from behind with the 92 of Josh Ward. We spoke with him earlier to the outside. Cars kind of getting a little wiggly, as Daniel mentioned earlier tonight. The drafting is amping up, though. After a clean restart, it's a 7-car breakaway up front with the 98 of Cliff Adams. Look at now, they're like a rocket ship as fast as the Jets landing here at Daytona.
Yeah, and they got a 2-wide battle going on behind them. James Ledford is taking that number 48 GM Goodrich Chevrolet up into the 2nd spot. Look at the damage on that car. He was involved in that first lap crash. He's elected not to take his fast repair, and he's putting his nose up in the midst of this battle for the lead.
We got some David Flanagan chat fans in here. Running 5th right now, David Flanagan, and that number 23, working his way back up to the front of the field. Paul Thomas asking which lap's going to be the next caution. Our fortune teller, Connor's probably going to let us know as he guessed the last one at lap 7. They're working on it right now. Ledford with a big push. The 98 of Adams tries to head it off down into turn 4. Daniel, I heard the groans. How you feeling about that move?
I'm feeling pretty risky right now watching these drivers potentially go 3 wide into turn 3. I don't think it's time for that yet. But look at the draft that these drivers are getting. Look at this run that this 23 of David Flanagan is getting on the 48 of James Ledford. He's going to give him a push right here and potentially give that 48 the lead coming off of 2.
Yeah, the 48 tries to get to the quarter panel. The number 98 of Cliff Adams doesn't have enough speed. That time, it's going to open the door up, at least for James Ledford, to be passed by the 86 of Anthony Green to the outside. But just as soon as I say that, that 23 is not shy with that back bumper, the number 48 of James Ledford, Chris. He's giving a big old push. Now, you got to be careful with those pushes into the corner. We talked about cars getting as high as 214 miles an hour into the corner. You have to let off. This car will not go full throttle and turn, even in the corners at Daytona, at 215 miles an hour.
It will not, and it's really hard. I'm very impressed with the 98 and the 86 up there on the top like that. It is hard to be able to run up there on the top, and as Ledford and the 98 of Cliff Adams almost get together. I think Adams got really tight right there off of turn number 2. It's hard to run up there. You really have to have all the track with these cars with as, much of his push as they pick up. But you guys mentioned it before, the 23 of Flanagan, he was the car that the 25 bounced off of in that crash earlier. But he's not intimidated at all. He's putting the nose of that car right up on the rear bumper of James Ledford.
This is hard racing. Cliff Adams, David Flanagan, James Ledford, very close here. Anthony Green's going to join the fray down into turn 1. I also see a car maneuver to the outside. I believe that is the 22 of Josh Cruz making his way up through the field as well, but it's 2 by 2. First 2 rows, Ledford, Adams, Green, and Flanagan in any given order here as they make their way down the super stretch. Josh Ward's going to join the scrum along with Jeff Byers. 8 cars, now 9, 10 cars enter into this lead pack. We thought we might see some of the intensity die down, but we haven't seen anything like that yet. Here on now lap number 15 of 80.
Oh, Ledford slid to make contact.
Ledford Adams. It's going to be Adams into the wall. 4 wide. The 22 is going to go underneath the 48. They make it work, but somehow we remain under Green. Wow.
It's almost like these guys don't realize we've already had 2 cautions.
Hey, they realize it, but they also realize that there's $180 on the line for the win tonight. $300 total cash purse. Thanks to Votive Racing League for putting this race on. 23 drivers started the race tonight, and we are seeing intense racing throughout the field. Right now, a battle between Josh Ward and Josh Cruz. The battle of Joshes and the battle of twos. Who's going to win out on this one? It's the 92 of Ward to the inside. He looks to clear the 22 down into turn 1.
Contact!
He gets turned. The 92 turned by the 22. We talked about the danger. It's going to collect the 1 of Lickard and several other cars who very well might not have a quick repair. Caution on the speedway, lap 17 of 80 for an incident starting in 3rd position.
Yeah, we'll go back right here. And I think we were on it when it happened. Contact from the rear to the rear bumper of Josh Ward right here. Like from the 22 of Cruz into his back bumper, turned him around right there. And unfortunately for these guys behind, nowhere to go, innocent victims. Looks like Brandon Sox up there on that outside wall. I see he's got some damage to his Chevy.
Anthony Green damage. He was leading early. Josh Ward, one of the main cars in the field who got wrecked there. Looking through Jeff Byers, Chris, I think the number 45 led earlier pole sitter. Going to be keeping an eye on him. I think he's got damage as well.
Yeah, so right here is where the contact occurs. We're going to try to slow this thing down, step it back just slightly right here. We'll see if we can see this a little bit of a different shot. Yeah, so going right here into turn 1, just just right there to the right rear. I mean, that's all it takes in these things to upset them. And Ward slides up right there in front of the 76, the 86 as well. Caught up in this. You mentioned Anthony Green. There goes the 1. Tom Lickert.
16. A 16 did a good job, as good as he could, of getting through that with some damage, not only contact with the 92, but the wall. But the 16, I'm impressed at how he got through there.
Do we have a driver name for him?
The 16, I'm looking, his number might not match up with...
Yeah, let's see if we can figure out who that is.
Yeah, I'm going to do some research here. But right now, we're under caution for the third time. Lap 18 of 80. We're almost 25% of the way through the Votive Racing League Sunset Showdown being broadcast here on SRM. We're going to see several cars come down the pit road to get fixed. But, Chris, one thing I want to point out while we're trying to figure out who that is, Sam Oliver, one of the favorites, started second, caught up in that lap 1 crash. He was 2 laps down. He's going to get the lucky dog, and he's going to be 1 lap down here based on what my timing is showing.
Yeah, and I think the 16 is the 76 of Joseph Sullivan. He was right here behind the 22. Yeah, he's watching this happen. Yeah, great decision right there. He does make a little bit of contact, but I think he's going to get away with that one just fine.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good right now, avoiding crashes, but Sullivan's going to have his work to do. He's going to have his work cut out for him if he's going to move through the field to get back in contention here. Steve Vest back out on the track after being involved in that lap 1 wreck. Started third, not the night Steve Vest was hoping for. Josh Ward got some damage from that, obviously. Really one of the central players in that after getting turned on lap number 18. Chris, as the cars kind of snake their way, and Daniel, I'll invite you to think about this question as well. We're going to let the viewers answer it first before we reveal the answer. But playing a little bit of trivia tonight in the chat. For those of you here, we're going to give away a 1/64th scale die cast. We'll ship it to you for free. The way we're going to play this is the players with the most points at the end of the night will win the die cast. We'll, if we have players with the same amount of points, we will do a drawing from one of those and randomly choose a winner. But we'll give the first 2 correct answers in the chat. First 2, you got to be first, and you got to be correct. First 2 correct answers will get a point apiece. We've got 5 questions on the night. And by the way, these are the 1987 cars. These is 1980 themed trivia. All right, so listen closely to the question. If you are in the chat or you haven't participated in the chat right now, it's going to be a great opportunity to get involved. Here's your first question. Type your answers when you know it. What video game released in 1980 became one of the most iconic arcade games of all time, featuring a character eating dots and avoiding ghosts? If you know the answer, type it in the chat. First 2 correct ones are going to get a point. And the fan with the most points at the end of the race, they're going to take home a die cast. If it's multiple who have the same points, we'll draw one.
You're going to make these harder later on, right?
Yeah, maybe. We want it, we want it to be accessible to the average race fan. And
these people don't know. Now
they're 1980. Yeah, they're 80s. We got one answer coming in from J-Dub. We'll see if anyone else wants to chime in with their answer. We got Paul Thomas with an answer here. We'll see if they're correct or not. Get in your answers while you can. Right now, drivers scrounging for every position on track that they can. We're getting ready to go green, under a lap away from the restart to come to lap 21. We appreciate you joining in this Sunset Showdown tonight, broadcasted by Slingshot Racing Media. Headed down the super stretch. Daniel, if you're a crew chief for one of these drivers, what are you telling them as we head into the second quarter of this race?
Well, what I'm going to tell them, if I was a crew chief, I'd be like, you know what? Relax, do a great restart. You know what? Don't put yourself in a predicament where you're going to wreck yourself or you're going to risk it for your own self. Because you don't want to wreck the car. You only have 2 repairs. If you're a used one, you want to be on high alert. You want to try to stay out of the chaos or try not to put yourself in a predicament where you're going to end up in a wreck. So if I was telling my driver what to do, I'd be telling them, you know what? Relax. We're in the second quarter of this race. You're taking care of the car, but I'd be kind of concerned.
You can't go back. They're past the point of no return, especially as the pace car peels off. We're green once again here at Daytona. It's going to be Cliff Adams on that inside and that maroon and white number 98, getting the restart he wanted there. It's going to put Byers in second. Meanwhile, Rapp and Josh Ryan fight for third position. Rapp in that black black and neon green number 52 Mission Barbecue car. He's a slingshot familiar face and fan favorite. Man, that thing's got rocket boosters on it, guys. Right to the outside of Byers. Little bit loose on the part of Byers. Wrap with some help from David Flanagan. This is a dynamic duo. They head to the front down into turn number 3. But Cliff Adams says, I'm not sure about that. He separates that pack, and Adams boosts his way into second right behind Johnny Rapp as they head out of turn 4 now, coming to the tri-oval to take lap 22.
Yeah, I think we had some stuff go on in the back of the pack. I heard one car squealing tires. Might have been Scotty Sobczak. He was slower right there, but I think they straightened it out. We're still green.
We're still green, and David Flanagan pushing the 98 of Cliff Adams to the lead, both on the outside. Adams says, I appreciate the push, but I'm going to duck back down here and ride that inside line. Chris, is the drafting strategy when you've got a partner, is it a little bit different as David Flanagan now breaks out from the number 98? They have been working together for the past 2 laps. What I was going to ask is we watch a car in the wall. Can he hang on to it? He's going to hang on to it there. That was Aiden O'Neill back there in the 87. What I was going to ask is the strategy or teamwork a little bit different in these cars considering how they handle a little bit differently than our more modern Gen 6 or next-gen NASCARs?
Well, there's definitely a way to help people, but sometimes in your eagerness to help somebody maybe that you want to work with, you actually hurt them because of, just how, arrow loose they can get with somebody right up behind them. I mean, look how far these rear spoilers are leaned back compared to current spoilers today. And with a driver right up on your rear bumper, it can definitely turn you around, make you loose. And I'll tell you right now, if you look in your rearview mirror and you see that Taco Bell Chevrolet in your rearview mirror, you better get ready to experience a push coming your way. And so far, I haven't seen anything bad as far as the pushes go. They're really strong, really aggressive.
Ooh. Flanagan and Cliff Adams, Daniel and I both noticed at the same time. There was almost contact there, but yeah, you mentioned it. I'm not sure what's giving drivers more indigestion tonight, that Taco Bell car or actual Taco Bell food. Working their way down the backstretch right now. It's Byers and Green, and Green was involved in that earlier incident, splits the gap between himself, Byers, and Flanagan, and fills in that hole to take second position. Single file right now, first 7, 8, 9
the 98
positions.
in the wall.
Yeah, the 98 in the wall hard. I think Cliff Adams gathers it back up. You can see him lose about 3 or 4 positions there. It looks like the 25 of Noah Blackwell going to be the next one to try to make hay on the number 98 after that incident. And that 98's definitely slowed down a little bit, maybe just trying to get back into the rhythm. But there's a battle for the lead going on back up front. It's Flanagan and Byers once again at it.
Yeah, and on the outside right there, Byers has got all the help down the backstretch. You saw Anthony Green get right up on the rear bumper of that 45 car and push him clear of David Flanagan.
Man, Jeff Byers treating all the other cars in the field like they're the yellow dots and the ghost in Pac-Man, which was our answer for that first trivia question.
No way.
Congrats to everyone who guessed it correctly. A couple of you got in first. I believe I'm recording J-Dub and Paul Thomas with the points for that question. We'll give you another one here shortly. John Rapp also, Chris, said, well, I wrote Pac-Man, but I wasn't in the right chat, so God knows where that went. He and Paul said, well, it's in the ether, gone forever, gone but not forgotten, certainly, John, as we watch a little bit of a draft session here between the 23 and the 45 of Byers and Flanagan.
Right here you got Flanagan, and he is, I like the way that car looks right in the center of the corner. This type of racing right here, yes, it is a super speedway, but we mentioned it last night in that practice races. Man, that's real sketch through that tri-oval right there, being that close. You almost have to drive these things here like you do maybe like a next-gen car on a big, like Michigan or something like that. It's not like a super speedway in the current gen cars. It's just a different animal, different beast. Man, look at this push.
A very different beast, yeah.
Oh,
the 25.
Oh, no.
Hard contact for the 23 from the front bumper of Blackwell, driving like Tim Richmond, the driver who drove that number 25. Aggressive push into the corner, but man, we all held our breaths there. That 23, Chris, we have seen him with some miraculous saves and some aggressive pushes tonight, getting a little bit of his own medicine there, but did a hell of a job holding on to it.
Yeah, he did. That was great driving right there, and you know, that was an example right there of that 25. Noah Blackwell had that run, but David Flanagan was wanting to protect that position, make it to where, you know, Noah Blackwell basically had a decision to make. Was he going to drive through the 23, or was he going to lift? And luckily for everybody, he decided to lift.
Yeah, he lifted, and everyone held on to it. Right now, Jeff Byers trying to make another swipe at the lead, and I want to point something out. I went through some stats in the last few days, and Jeff Byers on super speedways in leagues on iRacing at least, 26.8 average finish, but that is not indicative of the speed that we have seen from that driver in the 45 tonight. He is putting on a great show, especially after coming on pit road and is working his way back up through the field early. And then Noah Blackwell is kind of new to the top three in that number 25. Noah Blackwell, driver out of California. I'll say it. I said it, and I'll say it again, Chris and Daniel. I think the West Coast drivers have a bit of an advantage because their day's just been a little bit shorter at this point than these guys out in the central time zone and the eastern time zone.
I think that's a good point. They're maybe just getting done eating dinner before they get up in this race.
A little bit of carb loading.
Yeah.
Daniel, you're on iRacing. Do you have like a pre-race meal or like a pre-race tradition you like to do?
Well, I don't know if this is awkward or not, but chicken buffalo dip. Buffalo chicken dip.
Interesting.
I'll have that before my race. I'll definitely have that, because if I don't, I'll be eating and driving one-handed, and God knows what's going to happen next, especially if it's on a super speedway. But this race has been fantastic. You're seeing these runs, you're seeing aggressive pushing like I mentioned earlier on. And these drivers are getting more and more comfortable. Don't forget, that leads to more mistakes. And you're seeing this with a pack right now. Look at the runs dead even with the 23 of Flanagan side by side going across the front stretch.
Yeah, side by side battle between Flanagan and Blackwell.
Blackwell in the wall right there.
25 into the wall.
Yeah,
gathers it back up.
Yeah, we're going to see right here the detriment to running up high this many laps in a row right here. The car just picks up a big understeer up there on the top. You know, you like I said before, you really need all the track in these things. And the guys who are on the top, you can see that top lane is just kind of going away a little bit. The guys up on the top, they just don't have access to all the track that the guys on the inside do to make that turn.
Now, I want to point something out. I'm looking at pit stops right now. We've got David Flanagan, your leader. You've got Joseph Sullivan as we watch a pass by Jeff Byers here. Several of these cars up front, they're 19 laps into their fuel run. We are approaching. Actually, we said the fuel run was 40, didn't we? I lied. I got excited. I thought we had some green flag pit stops coming. I was trying to set it up, but we're looking at lap 40 is really the fuel window, the one into the wall. That's Tom Lickert. Tom Lickert took a licking from the wall.
Oh, my
Chris,
gosh.
how long I've been waiting?
Yeah, you just
how
had that
long
one
have I
ready.
been waiting to say that? I had it canned.
Yeah. There might have been a discussion pre-race about that one.
All due credit to Tom there. He did a hell of a job keeping it out of danger. Took one lick to the wall and then pulled it right off. And these cars can take a beating, man. We haven't talked about it so far as we watch these cars single file right now. Lap 32 of 80. We're approaching the halfway mark of the Votive Racing League Sunset Showdown, but this car really emerged in the 1980s. It's the Gen 3 car, as NASCAR fans know it, and it was really kind of the beginning of the Aero Wars for NASCAR manufacturers like Ford, Chevrolet, and Buick, as well as later on Pontiac. But this was really the first modern race car that kind of led us to where we are today, Chris. Previously, they had been more stock, but you can see these bodies are more aerodynamic than those models they were running on the track in the 70s. And the speeds, as you saw, 213, 214, they backed that up.
Got to move for the lead right here, and it looks like the 98 of Cliff Adams is going to make the pass on Flanagan. Yeah, Ellis, I'll be honest with you. Watching old races on YouTube, and I don't know if we can shout out other YouTube channels, but I think that...
Please.
Yeah, I think Smith TV, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a YouTuber who has some amazing old races posted, and he's got the satellite feeds for them, which I think is great, so that you can go back and you can listen to the conversations with the commentators like in commercial break. But I think that this car, looking back like at some of those races on YouTube, I just love the way that the racing in this era was, like in the 80s, especially like from about 86 to the end of the, end of this car right here. I was watching a race at the old Richmond Fairgrounds Raceway, and this car on that track was just, man, it was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, this was really when NASCAR saw a really big surge in viewership, in part because the racing improved so dramatically with these new purpose-built race cars. Again, retaining some of the stock looks, but those bodies were modified in the underneath parts of those cars. The innards, if you will, were souped up more than they ever had been before. As we watch Anthony Green gets popped out of line, slides back, and at this point in the race, you can see just how important that momentum is right now. With every driver who kind of slides up, maybe loses momentum, they lose at least 3 or 4 positions as the inside line rolls on by.
Yeah, and you saw right there Blackwell pulling up to the rear bumper, but he was really, really smart about it on corner entry right there. And seeing a lot of really smart driving. Saw a little bit of aggression earlier. Seeing definitely still some hard racing, but I think these drivers are starting to figure out where the limits are.
And they are. We've seen an uptick in aggressive moves, but also these guys are able to hang on to it. They're being a little bit more selective with how they're bumping, where they're bumping, and who they're bumping. Big battle right now between Cliff Adams and Joseph Sullivan developing as they head towards the tri-oval. Big push from the 25 right up in front of them to Jeff Byers, the leader. You really couldn't fit anything between these cars right now, whether we're talking the X or the Y axis, front bumper, back bumper, right side, left side. We've seen some intense racing all evening long here. Just a couple of cautions. We're on lap 37 of 80, approaching the halfway point. If you're just joining us, we greatly appreciate you tuning in. Let us know who you're rooting for in the chat. John Rapp, by the way, he says the day's the same, 24 hours, doesn't matter where you are. Well, I kind of see what you're saying, Johnny, but if you're on the West Coast, right, you're getting up a little bit later. I don't know. I stick to my opinion on that. I'm sticking to my guns. Discourse Golf Map says 6 minutes of repair on the 18 of Josh Ryan, who was running in the top 5 earlier, Chris and Daniel. He's dropped back to 20th, and it's going to be a long night if he sticks around in the race. Right now, 7 laps down. He would have to have a lot of help if he was to claw his way back into contention here.
Yeah, all he's going to have to be hoping for is a caution and caution and caution. I mean, I don't see any way you're going to fix that unless something dramatic happens.
Yeah, it's going to take several cautions, and we've seen these races. Business is going to pick up later on in the final quarter of this race probably, and you never know what we might get. It's unpredictable as we watch David Flanagan in the 25 of Noah Blackwell go at it here. Just a marble size behind the back bumper of the 25.
Yeah, and you saw them right there through the travel. Oh, and a little bit of a stack up right there. Got to be real careful not to run a stack up effect right there. Somebody run the back of somebody, but say everybody was on their game right there going in turn 1.
Everyone on their game. One of the drivers, Chris and Daniel, that I've seen on their game a lot, directing the attention back to 8th place. Brandon Sox. We've seen that number 34 black and orange mobile out on the track before in Slingshot Racing League. And he's up to 8th. Caution going to come out. Can Byers hold on to it? The 23 also.
No.
Man, we are still under green. 2 of the leaders, Byer, and I believe that was David Flanagan. Wow.
Yeah,
that had shades of a NASCAR Classic right there.
Yeah, let's go back.
That was a Kyle Busch save.
Yeah, it really was. And yeah, you see right here, the 25 gets a big old run. And yeah, he's getting pushed by Flanagan, and the 45 of Jeff Byers does move down, and it's just a stack up, a jam up effect right there. And I see he moved up the hill right there, right in front of the 98 of Cliff Adams. And man, Byers and Flanagan do an amazing job right here of keeping, everybody does an amazing job of keeping that together.
It just felt like it was going to happen. They weren't going to hold on to it, and somehow they managed to all through turns 3 and 4. A little bit of damage on both of those cars, but they're going to live to fight another day. We're going to have a pit stop coming up here, I believe, in just about maybe 15 or 10 laps or so if we go green. Everyone is on a different pit strategy up front right now. Got a lot of chatter going on right now. Drivers talking about the save that they just saw. Devin Ray joined the chat, said he's got $5 on Flanagan for the top 5. That's a pretty safe bet, I would say, Devin. Lots of people talking about that save right now. Couple of new chatters in here. I think it might be time as we watch the battle up front right now. It's going to be Cliff Adams, Johnny Rabb, Joseph Sullivan, Anthony Green, and Brandon Sox are your top 5. Sox makes a move to the inside of Green.
Yeah, Anthony Green tagged the wall right there off turn 4. Hopefully he can get back in the throttle and maintain the draft right here. This is really, that incident has really broke the field apart right here. So if you're up here and you're Cliff Adams, Johnny Rabb, Joseph Sullivan, man, you really just want to kind of run, run together right here. Nobody make a move. Let's try to, keep as single file and orderly as we can. That way we can settle it amongst ourselves.
Yeah, I think these guys they're finding themselves in a really good position right now. Really all the way back. We're single file. It's good racing. Drivers are making moves, but I think everyone is wanting to settle in until this first pit stop and what will likely be the only pit stop tonight. They want to settle in. They want to get some laps before they get to it for the final 25 laps or so of this race. Now 43 laps in the books here at Daytona in the Votive Racing League Sunset Showdown. I think it might be time for another trivia question. Second of 5 tonight of 80-team trivia. Remember, the rules are first 2 correct answers in the chat get a point apiece. The fan with the most points at the end of the night, we're going to send you a free 1/64th scale diecast. Oh, I got to acknowledge the Taco Bell runs through everything comment in the chat from KDO90. We've already we alluded to it with the indigestion earlier, but yeah, Taco Bell car is he's on the move tonight. So here's a trivia question. You guys in the booth, you can think about this one too. Which 1980s movie features the famous line, "I feel the need for speed"? First 2 correct answers in the chat as we watch Cliff Adams and Johnny Rapp along with Joseph Sullivan do duel. First 2 answers that are correct in the chat get a point apiece. Connor talking about in the chat, it's the longest green flag run we've seen. Absolutely, and you'll love to see it right now. These drivers settling in for a little bit of a longer run. We've been talking about how hard these cars are to drive all night, and really the tire wear is something that we should be keeping an eye on just a little bit tonight. Yeah. Chris, how do you think these tires are doing at this point in the run? Some drivers as many as 25 to 30 laps on them.
Well, I know that we're seeing the 76 right here, Joseph Sullivan, get real close to Johnny Rapp, but I'm starting to see more and more separation between the cars, and I think that just speaks to where we are in the midst of the tire run right here. I have always felt like, tire wear matters in these cars at both Daytona and Talladega, which it's a far cry from maybe some other vehicles that you run there. The guys that are able to do that, you can really, really see it in the attitudes of their car, and I think that's maybe what we're seeing possibly with this separation right here. I do want to make mention of this 23, I'm going to have to make a Taco Bell run tonight, how many times we've looked at this car.
Right.
But he has chased down. He and Jeff Byers both have chased down this lead pack. They are running really, really fast, and they've been 2 of the fastest cars here all night. So I'm not surprised to see that. I also want to keep an eye on this second pack right here as well, Scotty Sobczak. They are organized right here. And let's pull up the race insights right here, powered by Pierce Graphics. Right here it's showing they're dropping back that lap. They were about half a second slower, but I think that's a little bit of, I don't know if that's 100% accurate, because those guys, Byers and Flanagan, were getting the pull off the pack ahead of them. So I'm definitely going to be watching this pack as well.
Yeah, I think this is a nice little battle brewing, and it's really reminiscent of what we've seen in more recent Daytona races, where you've got kind of multiple packs. They've settled in, and they're just trying to make up ground on each other. Scotty Sobczak, Josh Ward, and Sam Oliver, along with Chase Berrycrest, they were all involved in earlier incidents. They got their damage repaired. They got back on the track. They've kept their nose clean since, and they are moving forward at this point. And with a head of speeds, we watched Josh Ward really pushing the 81. Organization is very important. And that time by, Chris, Here we go. Pit stops. Yep. Cliff Adams, Johnny Rapp, several drivers coming down pit road
Adams
right now. He hangs on to it. Miraculous save by Adams. It's not the first one we've seen from him tonight. These are going to be the first two drivers down pit road. It's going to be a lone pair here. Rapp screeches to a halt at the attention of his pit crew right behind Cliff Adams. They're getting they're getting their tires and fuel. This should be their only and final stop of the race. We're going to watch it here where they come out and if they can come out together and maintain that draft. We talked about in the pre-race just how important, Daniel, it was to stick together on those pit stops.
I was literally just going to ask you what is going to be the first group to come down pit road? And yes, you're going to have to come in with a group of cars and you're going to have to leave with a group of cars, because if you do not do that, you will literally be in trouble, basically, because you're not going to have anybody to draft with. You're not going to be going as fast. You're going to be off the pace. See the 52, Johnny Rapp just coming off pit road.
Does Cliff Adams have problems?
Cliff Adams is speeding on pit road. Has to be.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's a bummer for Adams, and it is also a bummer for Johnny Rapp as well. That was his drafting partner, and now he doesn't have anybody.
That is the worst case scenario you could have, is if the person that comes in with you gets a penalty and you leave, you're wondering why they're not coming on you. Well, that's the reason why, and now he's in deep trouble because he doesn't have anybody to draft with. But here's my question, guys. When do we see the second group pit now that we saw two drivers pit? So I'm assuming they're going to come in for the next 2 laps.
Yeah, we've seen tires really beyond most super speedway races. These 87 cars, they use up tires as fast as they're going around. We've been talking about it all night. 214, 15 miles an hour into the corner here. I'm watching them now, right now on older tires. They hit 213. Joseph Sullivan, your leader, they can't afford to give up too much time here with just 30 laps left in the race in this final run. You're right, Daniel. They've got to be thinking about when that next pit stop's going to be. And I've seen several comments in the chat saying they think that with a big group coming down pit road, there could be an incident on the entry of pit road. So that's going to be something these drivers really have to look at as we watch Joseph Sullivan, now Brandon Sox and Flanagan, along with Jeff Byers, that top four really dueling each other down into turn number 1. They head out of turn 2, down the super stretch, single file your top 6. It's Sullivan, Sox, Flanagan, Byers, Green, and Ledford. Right behind them, Chris and Daniel, it's 3.7 seconds back to Scotty Sobczak and Josh Ward. And to answer that question that Chris was asking earlier, they have closed up about half a second in the past 4 laps. They seem to really be finding their footing and their sea legs here. They're coming into the picture slowly but surely.
Yeah, they definitely are. They're pretty organized right here. They're not gaining, gobs of speed, but you don't have to. That's hard to do. And there's also another pack up there. Pull up the battle forecast one more time right here, and that lap right there, compared to James Ledford, the last car in that pack right there, these guys are almost half a second quicker. So slowly but surely they're getting there. Right now, the pressure is not on anybody to pit because those guys who came to pit road before, their pack got broke up, with the 98 and the 52. So right now, there's no pressure on anybody to come to pit road except for, here we go. Now this might make things interesting. The 45 and the 86 on pit road.
Byers and Green now coming down pit road. Another 2-car pack coming to the attention of their pit crews. Last time by, that was tried. One driver sped. I don't think we're going to have that this time as both drivers slide into their pit stalls. Going to be taking tires and fuel here in what will be their final pit stop of the race. They've got to hit their marks. They've got to coordinate and choreograph. It was a no-tire stop for the 15.
The 15's spinning around right there on pit road entry. I think he's able to get it all squared away. That is the 15 of Sedarius Purse. I might be butchering that. If so, I apologize.
It looks like Anthony Green, though, and Jeff Byers, they're going to be choreographed here. They're going to get off right with each other. They're about 4 or 5 car lengths behind Green. You'll find Byers. Here comes the pack. These guys have not made their pit stops yet. Green around the 86. He collects the number 45 of Byers.
No.
Byers hard into the wall. They're not going to have a caution here to save him. We talked about the dangers of this earlier. Pit stops are dangerous. They are one of the most critical points in the race. And for two of our front runners, Jeff Byers and Anthony Green, now 10th and 11th, they've really set themselves back and created a whole load of laundry to do before the end of this race if they're going to get back up front. If they get a caution, Chris and Daniel, they might be okay, though, as we watch the replay.
Yeah, and that right there, the 45's got obvious wheel damage. The moment they hit the right front on the left front of the 86, it just steered straight for the wall right there. So, tough break for Jeff Byers. Yeah, I think that the 86 right there of Anthony Green he was hearing the footsteps of the pack behind him. Was like, I got to get on the gas here. I got to get after it because I got to blend as best as I can. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out.
I'm going to agree with that, too, because when I'm looking at the 86, it looked like he was speeding up just because he's looking at mirror. He knows that the pack's coming, so I think he wanted to get out there in front of the pack. Unfortunately, that's the risk that you take, and when you do that, you could spin yourself out, and that's exactly what happened to Anthony here.
Great analysis on both of y'all's parts. Right now, lap 56 of 80 in the books. We got about 25 laps left here. We're approaching the final quarter of the Votive Racing League Sunset Showdown. $300 on the line. It's Ellis Thomas here in the booth for Slingshot Racing Media, joined by Chris Smith and Daniel Polish Jr. We've got a great battle and a great finish kind of building in the final quarter of this race. Right now, it's Joseph Sullivan and Brandon Sox who lead the field. Right behind them, David Flanagan and James Ledford. I'm looking right now through the fuel mileage on these cars. It looks like Joseph Sullivan's got about 20 laps left in the tank. That's going to be close. He might be able to make a splash and go, and I think that might be what Brandon Sox is planning on doing as well. Guys, he's got the same fuel mileage. It's David Flanagan also with 19 and James Ledford as well. That front four, we're going to see a really critical, basically money stop, I would imagine, in the next 10, 15 laps, setting up a final dash.
Yeah, I agree. And, right now, of the guys that have come to pit road, I believe that Johnny Rapp is currently the leader of all of them. I think he had some fortune getting hooked up with Sam Oliver. Josh Ward, Scotty Sobzak, those guys came to pit
86.
road.
Hold on real quick. The 86 in the wall. Anthony Green in turn number 3 and 4. Green flag still on the track, but heavy contact. Sparks and debris fly from the back of the 86. He's going to I'm trying to think of the right word here. Crawl down pit road with severe damage, but we remain under green. Tom Lickert looks like he might have gotten a hit from that as well. Slow on the track. He was running 11th at the time. 10th, actually, as Aiden O'Neill goes by. I'm not sure what happened to that 86.
86 got loose right there, and maybe this is a situation where that car spun around earlier. Maybe it had damage from that spin on the flat of the track, or maybe just those rear tires from spinning, getting lit up like that. Maybe they're still hot and he's still struggling with a loose condition.
Right now, 22 laps left in the race. Couple of chatters. Devin Ray says if David wins, he's buying us all a 12-pack party box. Not sure a party box of what, but hey, either way,
Taco
have
Bell,
fun
man.
with
Come
it.
on.
Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Pack.
Yeah, see, that shows how, I like the bean burrito. I know Paul Thomas, my dad's watching as well. He's a bean burrito man. And let us know what your favorite Taco Bell item is in the chat right now. What's sounding good from that menu as we watch the Taco Bell car of David Flanagan run third place right now in that 23. He's been up front all night long. He's been in the conversation. Behind him, James Ledford also in the conversation. It's really a 4-car breakaway. You've got to go back to Josh Ward, Scotty Sobzak, Barry, and Rapp, who have made their pit stops. It's going to be really interesting, guys, to watch where that pack comes out in comparison to the leading 4 cars right now.
I will say this. Right now, they are running a lot faster than those lead 4 cars are. This past lap right here, Josh Ward ran about 0.6 of a second faster than that lead pack. So they're running really, really good lap times. The only question... Here they come.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, sorry to cut you off, but I was just going to mention after you, is that when do we see these 4 cars come down pit road? Because we know they're going to be short of fuel, so I'm sure they're going to get a splash because they were about 3 to 4 laps short of the run. So we'll see if they come out as a pack. I don't see why not, but question is who's going to end up with the lead?
Flanagan missed his pit stall, had to slam it into reverse. That's going to cost him at least a second. That could seriously impact where he comes out in the running order, and if he can stay with this drafting pack to get back up to the front. He's still on pit road as everyone else leaves. That is going to be the call.
On these other guys, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Ellis. 2 tires on Sox, Sullivan and Ledford, as well as Flanagan. They're going to come out ahead of Ward, Sobzak, Berry, Rapp, and those guys, and they're going to have a pretty big gap. So let's see what happens. If they can get organized quickly, and this might be, to their detriment right here. They're pretty separated, and so they're not going to be running very fast. Josh Ward, Scotty Sobzak, these guys back here, they got to stay lined up. They got to run qualifying laps here.
Yeah, I'm watching the telemetry right now. How close can Josh Ward get? Right now, he's 8 seconds back. He's the leader of that second pack. I'm continuing to see those decimal numbers grow smaller and smaller. It seems to have stabilized at 7.7 seconds. That's the number right now on lap 61 of 80. 20 laps remaining. We've officially entered into the final quarter of the Votive Racing League Sunset Showdown here at Daytona. Who's going to win it? We'll keep an eye. 7.7 was the number. Let's remember that. And we'll keep tabs on that second pack of drivers led by Ward, Sobzak, Berry, and Rapp. Right now, though, Chris and Daniel, you mentioned it. Sox, Sullivan, Ledford, they're in really the catbird seat right now. This race is theirs to control if they can maintain that lead, but it is ever shrinking right now. Down to now 6.9, now 6.8 seconds. Josh Ward back to the lead. And right now I'm watching Brandon Sox try to go by Steve Vest. This is going to be a critical decision for Sox. Do you go by or do you try to draft with Vest and push him? Joseph Sullivan says, let's go by. He goes to the inside, almost contact between Sullivan and the 6 of Steve Vest. It's going to be Brandon Sox who tries to catch back up to the bumper of the 76 of Sullivan. They come down the super stretch here at Daytona. Chris, there's a lot of gap between these two cars right now. They're not connecting like we had talked about really needing to do earlier on.
No, they're not, and Flanagan has fallen into the grasp of this second, or he almost has, I should say. It should be any second now they'll catch up to him, so they're going to add another car to this mix right here. Only question is, do they go by him with him being on those 2 tires? Handling does matter, so we'll see what Josh Ward, Scotty Sobzak decide to do when they catch him. I don't know if they're going to have enough time. I mean, they got time, but I don't know if they're going to be able to get organized enough to be able to do anything, because these guys right here, the front 3, are now locked up together.
Yeah, 17 laps.
That's the key factor. You have to get organized. You're going to have to push as hard as you can, but without wrecking yourself. That is the thing you have to do to catch up to this first pack. And, I think they can do it, but the question is, will there be enough time, like you said? But, I mean, if you're going to want to battle for the lead, you're going to have to be very aggressive on it.
Yeah, we're going to see the intensity ramp up here. That is a great point. Hey, let's up the intensity of our trivia just a little bit. Last trivia question answer for those watching, for those playing, Top Gun. That was the correct answer. The points went to J-Dub and KDO90 on that. Third question coming up. Top 2, the fastest 2 correct answers in the chat get a point. Fan with the most points at the end of the night takes home a 1/64th scale diecast. Here's your third question. Let us know what you think the answer is in the chat. What major television network launched in 1981 with the first music video? Video killed the radio star. Put your answers in the chat. First 2 correct answers get the points on this one. Who are our 80s fans and know their history? Right now, top 4 trying to make the rest of the top 8 history, looking to pull away. And I'm seeing that lead really stabilize at this point. We've seen it hovering around 5.9, and it's down to 5.7 now. So who knows? Maybe they've got something.
Yeah, David Flanagan is doing all he can. In fact, I think it really upset the 92 right there. He was doing everything he could to push Josh Ward right there. I think they're starting to feel a little bit of desperation back here in this pack when they saw that lead kind of stabilize. We can still get a caution. I wouldn't say wreck yourself trying to catch those guys by any means. But I think that they're seeing these laps click away, and they're seeing the time that they gain sort of be less and less and less, and so they might be feeling a little bit of pressure here.
speaking of pressure, Steve Vest, you know, I'm feeling a little guilt here, Chris, because we watched Steve Vest in a practice race the other night, and I reached out to him in that number 6 car the next morning. I said, Steve, I know you're not planning on running this race, man, but I really think you should based on the speed you've shown. Steve's new to iRacing. And if you've never raced iRacing before, there's a place for everybody, even the beginners. Steve has really made his way and learned the ropes very early in his iRacing career. We encouraged him to get in here. He started in the 3rd position, put that thing on the first 2 rows, but got caught up in that early incident and had trouble repairing that damage. He's fought back, Chris, to 17th position out of 23 drivers here tonight. So determination award, we got to give it to Steve Vest, that driver out of the Southeast region, doing a good job tonight, just persevering, something that a lot of drivers don't appreciate. Drop out of the race if they get in a wreck. He's in it for the long haul.
Yeah, and, you know, I want to give a shout-out to Steve as well. I officially met Steve this past weekend.
That's right.
That was pretty cool. You know, Steve wanted to check out. We live in the same town, and he wanted to check out the rig and the cockpit at the house, and so we hung out for a little bit. Super nice guy, and he's come a long way in a short time here in iRacing, and he was super impressive last night. He had a great qualifying run tonight. Up there, started in the 3rd spot. I hate that he got caught up in that deal at the beginning of the race, but doing a nice job to hold on to the rear of this lead pack.
Oh. We might have a caution. Sedarius Purse down the front straightaway, hits the wall. He's going to slide down pit road. Front bumper slides across the entryway to pit road. I was just about to point out that 15 car. We stay green. He got loose off of turn 4 in that 15 car, and he's going to make his way down slowly pit road. For the time being, we are still under green flag conditions here at Daytona. Lap 69 of 80 in the books. Coming to the 10 to go here momentarily. We're getting ready for the final laps, and Chris, not to draw attention away from that beautiful 15 car, which I was going to point out. I love a good purple car, and that's got the Miami or South Florida vibe going on right now, or the Florida vibe. I know we're not in South Florida. I am a geography teacher. I know that. But that 15, man, the best looking part of that incident was the car itself.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he got that dreaded push off of turn 4 that we see these cars develop all the time. So Sedarius Purse is not alone in picking up that push off of the corner, and unfortunately that bit him, and I think that maybe that is going to possibly be the end of his night, because I think he's already used a fast repair.
I believe you're right. And speaking about pushing, Chris, this second group, 3.9 seconds now. They've cut the lead in half in the last 6 laps. That group led by David Flanagan, Scotty Sobczak, Josh Ward, Chase Berry, and Johnny Rapp. They're going to be there in a hurry. Devin Ray in the chat saying it's going to happen by lap 75. That's 4 laps from now. They've got to stay organized. A little bit of shenanigans there between Flanagan and Sobczak. The biggest difference I'm seeing right now on lap 71, this first pack, they're really just not getting close to each other right now, like the second pack, who has a lot more urgency, is.
I was really worried that Johnny Rapp was going to lose that pack. He followed about a second behind Chase Berry, but Johnny's gotten up on the wheel here in the last few laps and has really closed in on the pack, and that's brought it to 5 cars, and they're running really well. I think that it's Chase Berry in the wall. I think that might hurt them a little bit, but he's got some help. He's got Johnny Rapp right behind him right there. I'm gonna be interested to see right here, as they get closer and closer and closer, do they keep on, gaining at the rate that they're gaining at? David Flanagan's he's really fast on those 2 tires, and I'm a little bit surprised, but not also because he's been fast all night, but a little bit surprised he's able to lead this pack with those 2 tires and be as fast as he is. That's impressive.
You can see that second pack slowly creeping into the picture. The sun is setting at Daytona on the Sunset Showdown. From Votive Racing League, it's Ellis Thomas, Chris Smith, and Daniel Paulus in the booth. We're watching to see if the second pack can catch the lead 3 cars right now. Just 9 laps remain. The final 1/8 of the race is underway. This is the money portion of the race, if you will. And the numbers are telling us that, yes, that second pack is likely to catch the lead within just about 5 laps, leaving them 3 laps to settle this out. It is going to be a barn burner. And let's finish out this trivia in the chat while we're kind of keeping tabs and watching the race as well. 80s themed trivia. Last answer to the question was MTV, television. Bonus points if you knew that. Next question. We're going to make this our final question of the night. Okay? Which 1980s pop star is known for hits like Material Girl? Let us know.
Man.
Top two, the fastest two correct answers in the chat, get the trivia points. The winner with the most trivia points is going to take home a 1/64th scale diecast tonight. Connor in the chat says they're going to overtime. He thinks we're going to have a caution on the last few laps. Right now, they've got 7 laps to do it. Reminder, trivia question, let us know which 80s pop star is known for hits like Material Girl.
And while our chat is answering the trivia right here, I want to say in the last lap that this pack right here hasn't gained as much. We'll see right here. Yeah, they actually lost a little bit that time right there. So we can't have laps like that. We can't have laps where we lose time.
That front pack's have to go by the lap car, the 22 right now of Josh Cruz. That's going to slow him down, but it's also potentially going to add another car into the fold to give that first pack a little bit more speed. Right now it's being led, the first pack being led by Joseph Sullivan, Brandon Sox in that black and orange 34 pushing him. It's a 4-car pack now, Chris, versus a 5-car pack. 2.7 seconds separate them. They closed that last corner, coming up 6 to go.
Oh, the 92 of Josh Gordon.
He gathers it back up.
Got 5 laps to get it done, and it is going to be a steep road to do it. On entry to 1 right here, it looks like they're gaining a little bit of ground right here on the pack. It's just going to be tough. It's going to be hard. It's not impossible, but it is going to be difficult.
Now, one thing I want to point out is as we approach the final 4 laps, that lead pack, what happens if they start dueling? How long can you afford to ride in third or third position if you're James Ledford and just hope that you have a chance on the final lap? Because if you don't make your move, you might not even have a shot to win.
Yeah, that's a good point. If they start making moves earlier than maybe what they need to start making moves, that's going to divide everybody behind them into this race. So I think that's a good point that we need to keep an eye on. I mean, a lot of times I don't like to wait until the last lap. I prefer to do it maybe just a little bit earlier because you never know if caution's going to come out, throw you into a green-white checkered.
Right.
So, yeah, sometimes I don't wait to the last lap. But in this situation right here with this pack gaining on me, I might be more inclined to wait until the last lap.
They're going to have some critical thinking to do. Coming to 3 to go here. The final 3 laps in the Votive Racing League Sunset Showdown. Joseph Sullivan, Brandon Sox, James Ledford, they've been the top 3 since pit stops about 15 laps ago. They've led the way. They pitted after this second pack who came in a little bit earlier, who is right now closing the gap. They've closed the gap about 5.5 seconds in the last 12 laps. They've got the speed, but they've got to stay organized. If they catch them, it becomes an 8-car fight. Right now, it's a 3-car fight. We see Brandon Sox really laying the bumper to the 16, saying, we got to get going, because he sees the same numbers we're seeing. Right now, Flanagan under 2 seconds, guys.
That's not that far back, especially on drafting track, but don't forget, the more cars you have...
car in the wall! Scotty Sobczak collides with the 23 of David Flanagan. It's going to be a green-white checkered, but not the way we thought it was. Caution is on the speedway. Lap 79 right before we hit the 2 to go. That's going to change things. It's going to bring them all together.
It sure is, but now we're going to have a heck of a restart here. But like I was saying before, the more cars you have in the pack, the faster your group's going to go if you're organized. But now that's all out the window. Strategy's all out the window. This is going to be an exciting restart, but what do you want to do? Do you want to come down pit road, get fuel or tires, or do you just want to stay out and see how this goes?
Oof. Man, there are 11 cars on the lead lap. There'll be 12. Josh Cruz, who was fighting to stay in that lead lap car position, he's going to make 12 cars on the lead lap. And, boy, that 23 about blew over there for a moment.
Yeah, it did. He got hit by Scotty Sobczak in the right side door as he spun back across. He was just trying to hold it wide open. He was picking up that push off of turn 4, and he was doing everything he could to hold it wide open. and just desperation, trying to catch that pack, and unfortunately it didn't work out. But I think that Johnny Rapp, Chase Berry, these guys might have some damage. I don't know how serious it is, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Devin Ray in the chat talking about, kind of echoing what Daniel said just a moment ago. Get tires, okay?
Yep.
Get tires. Connor, we appreciate you joining in tonight, man. Hope you have a good night. We're glad to hear about you getting a baby sister. Lap number 79. We're going to see some pit stops, it looks like. Everyone comes down. A big old snake of 1987 NASCAR stock cars hit pit road, getting ready for a green-white checkered. I'm going to look to see how long these cars are in their stalls to see if we can ascertain what they're doing with their pit strategy.
Oh, man, the 76, and this might affect his pit time. Yeah, he's very crooked. This might make him a little bit slower right here, taking the pit crew a little bit longer time. He's taking 4 tires.
Chase Berry looks like he might have elected for a 2-tire stop.
He did.
Chris, that number 5 is going to come out in the lead. Are we going to see a classic Chase Berry finish here, running near the outside the top 10 for much of the race and sealing the deal in the closing laps? It is going to be wild here. If you're watching, if you got friends who you might think would like this green-white checkered, exciting finish to a race, let them know. Give them the link to tune in right now. Let's pack as many people into this chat as possible. Everyone's doing a great job in the chat. That last answer to the question about the 1980s television channel, the 1980s pop star, first 2 who guessed it got it right. Madonna was the correct answer. Madonna. Did you not know that, Chris? You were talking smack about how easy these questions were earlier.
I didn't know about it.
Well, I knew that I had heard, I was familiar with that, I just couldn't place it, and so, that one definitely did get me, I'm not going to lie.
Connor making a point. He's called overtime. He's been the soothsayer, fortune teller of this race. Like, he can see the future, man.
Yeah, he has. And when we do get going right here on this green-white checkered, it's going to be interesting to see, how Chase Berry might stack up with all these guys, because I would feel really good about Chase's chances if he had other drivers that also decided to take 2 tires with him. Now I know at one time, and I'm not up on the game on these 87s in the officials, but I know at one time it used to be an advantage to take 2 tires, especially on super speedways. Over the course of a green flag run. So maybe that's still the case, and I just don't know. I'm not 100% on that. So these guys might know a lot better than I get. Like, especially like Brandon Sox. He was one that took 2 tires earlier. Now he's on 4 now. We'll see how he stacks up against these guys.
Yeah, let's talk to Josh Ward real quick. Let's see what we can hear from him. Hey, Josh Ward, can we get you for 30 seconds or less?
Yeah, man, I got you.
Hey, man, great race. We know you had some trouble earlier. You've gathered it back up. We looked like that second pack I thought was going to catch the lead pack within the final 3 laps, but it's not to be. It's not going to matter. You're getting ready for a restart, a green-white checkered. What do you got to do in these last closing laps of the race?
Is the number one thing. So I think I'm going to try to get up here. I got the 81 starting right beside me, so we're going to try to get together, but we just talked about it. It's going to be every man for himself. So go try to win this race, and checkers or wreckers.
All right, man. Teamwork out the window. Checkers or wreckers. Good luck, Josh Ward. Wish Scotty Sobzak good luck for us. Hopefully we'll talk to you at the end of the race, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, Josh Ward, you heard from the driver in the field, gearing up for the restart right now. He mentioned it. Teamwork is out the window. Every man for themselves. This is going to produce an interesting finish. Chase Berry, Chris, his really closest teammate back in 7th is Johnny Rapp. So he's a lone fox, a lone wolf up here for the time being. What are you doing if you're Chase Berry on this restart, guys?
Well, I just think that you got to keep it nice and smooth. Get through the gears first, because that's goal number 1 with these things. But just get a nice smooth launch. Maybe don't get too far out in front and let them generate a huge run on you.
All right, gearing up for a restart here. It's going to be a green-white checkered. 2 laps to go. If the drivers make it to the white flag under green, it's official. They'll race back to the line for the win. It's Chase Berry, that 5 car on the inside. Joseph Sullivan to the outside. We're green one more time here in Daytona. Sox doesn't get the restart he had hoped for. It's going to be 1, 2, 3 single file. Ledford trying to get by Sox down into turn 1.
I think that if you're Chase Berry, you feel pretty good right here. These guys are side by side behind the 76 of Sullivan.
3 wide, Johnny Rapp stops Zach Ledford. Here comes Berry.
Watch
Sullivan
this.
to the outside, tries to make move. Sox
34.
down the inside with the help of Johnny Rapp. 3 wide for the lead. Sox jetliner down the back straightaway. Johnny Rapp pushes him to the lead. 3 wide behind them. It's Zach Berry in the 16. Coming to the white flag. If we make it, it is not over. Absolutely, Daniel. We got to make it to the white flag. Then it's over. Johnny Rapp to the outside. One more time around Daytona. Can they hang on to it? Rapp and Sox.
It's going to be whoever gets the greatest push here down the back straightaway. If you are a leader, you are blocking every lane as possible. We are 3 wide almost again. 4th second, but they are side by side coming down the back stretch. Here we go with a run on the inside of 34.
Oh,
contact! Squirrely. Around goes the 81 upside down.
Stop, Zach tumbles down the back straightaway. It's Rapp, it's Sullivan, it's Sox. 3-way battle for the lead. Sullivan to the inside. Can Rapp hold him off? He tries to hang a quarter panel to the 34. Side. Rapp, Sox, can he do it? Who's gonna win it? It's gonna be Sullivan at the line. How about that? It was a photo finish for second between Sox and Rapp. But wow, how about that?
That 34 tried everything. He tried everything. Brandon Sox did everything correctly, but he just couldn't hold on to the lead. But man, that was a wild finish. Flipping upside down in the grass. We're going to have to take a look back at that wreck.
Absolutely. Scotty Sobczak saw the earth about 40 times, it felt like, with the amount of times that 81 rolled over after contact with his teammate from Josh Ward. But that was all in the mirror of Sullivan, Sox, Rapp, and Berry as they raced to the line. Sullivan, Joseph Sullivan, the driver out of the Midwest, started 8th, works his way up to the lead, and he wins this race. Wow, what a finish. We're going to take a look at the finish. We're going to take a look at the roll by Scotty Sobczak here down the back straightaway. Wow, guys, we talked about it in pre-race. These cars roll over very easily, as was the case with the cars in the 1980s.
Yeah, they did, and yeah, sorry, we had a little bit of issue with the ticker there. Could not get that back up for that green-white checker, but yeah, what a roll by Scotty Sobczak. Yeah, that was one of those weight shift rolls right there. It was just a stack-up effect. He was trying to get a push from Josh Ward right there, and man, what a tumble. Oh, it looks like James Ledford also had himself a heck of a wreck as well.
Holy moly.
I'll go back and see.
That was like a Ryan Preece.
Yeah, he was down here in the grass trying to keep his foot in it, and oh my gosh.
This is great. This is why I love Daytona.
And you mentioned it, Daniel. Nothing is predictable here, and I don't think we could have predicted kind of what that last part of the race was going to look like. James Ledford, let's get someone out there to check on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so with that being said, we're going to hear right now from Johnny Rapp, our third-place finisher across the line. We're going to pull him into the booth.
3 wide.
Hey, Johnny Rapp, it's Ellis, Chris, and Daniel in the broadcast booth. You got a copy, my friend?
Yes, sir. What's happening?
Man, it is amazing to hear from you under kind of a different circumstance. We're broadcasting, but it's a different race. It's a different league, but remarkably, you're still up front. I know you didn't get the win. You were positioned to do it. Let's start with that final couple of laps. What was your mentality going into the restart, and did it pan out the way you had anticipated, or at least move-wise, coming to the checkered flag?
Yeah, so on that restart, I thought I had no chance. Man, I was trying to guide Chase. I'm like, Chase, you don't lose that lead. They might wreck, and man, it lined up. I started pushing I think it was it Brandon? He had a Hooters car.
It was Brandon in that 34.
Man, to see he's parted, we went right up to the front, and man, I missed turn 3 and 4, man. Drove it in a little too hot, got a little too high. I think if I would have held it low, it would have been a different story, but still a really good race to the line, and I had a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. It was wild. How did we kind of got off to a rough start? Do you feel like drivers got settled in? Do you feel like you settled in a little bit later on there?
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt if they started noticing the incident limit because, I mean, I was involved in both of those first two wrecks, and I was already at 8 out of 20, right? So that could have went pretty bad. It could have got DQ'd. I think one guy did. So I think, that might have started, coming to people's minds. But yeah, I mean, once we got that long run, man, I thought it was going to go to the end, but.
Man, you did a good job. I know your dad was watching. You did him proud. We were excited about that. He was active in the chat tonight. We were glad to see him back. Congratulations. Before we let you go celebrate that third place finish, I know you got some cash headed your way. You got any shout outs?
Well, as always, to you guys putting on a show here. We got a newcomer, Daniel. I don't know you, but I'm sure you did just fine. And being partnered up with these guys is a great place for you. And for Shane for putting on this event, right? Sunset Showdown, right?
Absolutely.
Shane's a super cool dude. And I'm glad, we got a good turnout and a decent race for him. It was a lot of fun. Everybody watching, Chase for being my teammate here tonight, and everybody that was out there. It was a fun race.
Awesome, man. Well, congrats on that third place finish. Thanks for putting on a great show. Go celebrate that podium finish.
Will do.
All right, Chris and Daniel, I'm going to let you take over this interview with Brandon Sox, our second place runner-up finisher tonight.
Brandon Sox, driver of the 34. This is Slingshot Booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Man, Brandon, we saw you. We were talking to Johnny just a second ago, and we saw you guys get hooked up right there on that green-white checkered, and man, you guys were hauling there towards the front. What did you need to maybe go a little bit differently right there on that green-white checker to bring home the checker flag? You were awfully close to it tonight.
Well, to start off, I kind of missed the shift a little bit there on the restart, but I kind of was able to give me a little bit of draft on the back end. I guess maybe just needed them to race each other a little bit harder out of 4. I saw them get close and slow down. I thought the opportunity was coming, but yeah, it just. Not quite enough.
Daniel, did you have a question for Brandon?
Yeah, Brandon, it was an excellent race throughout the whole night. What was going through your mind, seeing that first wreck right away at the start of the race, people missing their shift possibly. Were you concerned if we had more restarts that could happen to you and you could wreck yourself out? And tell me, how was the draft throughout the race? Because it looked pretty treacherous.
I wasn't too concerned about anybody else missing a shift or even myself missing a shift, even though I flirted with it there on the last restart. That beginning wrecks was definitely interesting, and yeah, the draft was pretty good. That little front 3 cars there on that long green flag, we were probably 3/4 throttle. I think all of us were saving fuel, and that big pack was just hulking us down. So. It would have been close if we were having enough fuel to the end ourselves, so it all worked out.
Hey, well, you almost made it. I can't wait to see what you can do in the next race. And I'm pretty excited to see what happens next.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all putting this on. This definitely was a fun one.
Brandon, you got any shout-outs before we let you go?
No, sir.
Hey, cheers to you. Shout out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's your second place finish tonight. Brandon Sox bringing home some cash. Congratulations, bud.
Let's go. Thank you, sir.
All right, and now it's time. Joined by Joe Sullivan in Victory Lane. Joe, it's Ellis, Chris, and Daniel in the Slingshot broadcast booth. You got a copy, my friend?
Yeah, I got you, boys.
Hey, man. First of all, let's get it out of the way. Congratulations on a hell of a win tonight here at Daytona. You're $180 richer, and boy, you had to fight for it tonight. It was a night of ups and downs. We talked about in pre-race how unpredictable this race was. Walk us through kind of how your race progressed and how your mental state was throughout the evening.
Well, my mental state was pretty calm up until that late caution, but yeah, just moving through the pack there and biding our time that we had the early cautions and everything, and we were able to avoid some of that and kind of keep keep clean, and we still had our fast repair in our pocket if we ever needed it. But I was glad we were able to get that long run in. That was pretty fun to be able to get a green flag stop in. And then just coming out in front of everybody there, and I think it was me, Sox, and Ledford. Us three were just staying in line and putting laps down. And then I thought we were good to go and going to fight it out there, with like the last lap with us three. And then the caution came out, and your mind goes 100 miles an hour at that point. Do you pit? Do you not pit? Do you take 2 tires? Do you take 4 tires? So it was a lot of talking, and me and James decided to come and get tires there, and didn't have the best restart. You guys seen me kind of get run up the track there and won, and at that point I thought the race was over for us, but we were able to get a good run coming to the white there, and shoved it 3 wide and kind of just had a good run there, and I think was a wrap, went wide in 3 and 4 on the last lap, and was able to go low and go underneath him there, and I got a good push from Sox there. So it was a good finish. We were able to. I think I was talking to Rapp, and this race had like everything. I mean, we had a long green flag run, we had pit stops, we had a green white finish. I mean, I don't know what more you can ask for.
It really was a great race. And I want to touch on kind of that final restart after watching it a couple more times. You just cut your way through the field like butter on that final lap, man, restarting in 6th position. And you were there pretty much until you got to the white flag. That moment where you made that dive to the inside, really what was the winning moment? How convinced were you that you were going to clear the 52 of Rapp and be able to hold off any sort of charge from the outside from him?
Well, with having those fresh tires, I felt I was able to keep it on the bottom there. I was able to kind of angle the car just right, and the way he pushed up, I knew I was going to be able to at least, clear him. I didn't really want to clear him too much, but at least, be right there. And then I seen Sox was coming, so I was just bracing for that. I knew he was going to give me a push, and I was just bracing for it and make sure I could, keep the wheel straight and not lose it there and just hold on to it at that point, because at that point we were going to be finishing, whether it was on our lid or going straight. So I was able to keep it straight there and come away with a victory here.
Oh, man, Joe, it was real pleasure talking to you tonight. It was a pleasure watching your race out there. Congrats on that win, man. We're going to go let you celebrate, but do you have any shout-outs before you hit up the Taco Bell or the whatever the celebratory food might be tonight?
I just want to give a shout-out to everybody who was involved in this, man. It's a great production from start to end here. I mean, it was... I wish we could add a little bit more cars, but I mean, it was, like I said, this race had everything. So shout out to everybody involved here. Shane, all you guys up in the booth. I had the broadcast up in the background, but definitely going to go back and watch this and check it out, and definitely push it to all of my avenues that I can to, get some more publicity for you guys out there. And, I'll give a shout out to everybody at Core Racing Network, Core Racing League. It's my home league. Shout out to my wife, my kids. They start school tomorrow, so they had to tuck in early tonight. They didn't get to catch this. They'll watch it tomorrow. And just can't wait to go back and watch it.
Hey, man, appreciate it. Congrats to you. Great race tonight. We appreciate the support. Go out there and celebrate that win with the family and friends.
All right, thank you.
See you, Joe. All right, guys, man, I think Joe really said it well. This race had everything. Daniel, was there anything that surprised you about tonight?
Well, the big one didn't surprise me. Ryan Priest flip didn't surprise me. But what really surprised me is how well these drivers adapted to the cars. Because remember earlier on, the start of the race, even in practice, they were a little wonky about how the cars would be in the draft and how they would be kind of spread out. We did see some issues on pit road, but that's usually a here and there thing. But what was really interesting to me is how these drivers work together. They're all fighting for the money prize, but the teamwork and the team that team members and driver members and whatever you have that put this all together, I thought was pretty cool. It was my first ever race that I ever did this here. I thought that was pretty cool. But what I'm really looking forward to more is how these drivers adapt with different series that we're going to be broadcasting. And I'm just looking for more opportunity. I think it's really great. But Daytona didn't disappoint me. We saw wrecks. We saw great drafting, great 3-wide action, by the way. The 34 there was pretty close at the end. I thought he was going to get it. Obviously, it didn't happen. Jonathan Sullivan got it in the 76, and that was it. History wrote itself, and it was pretty cool to see the old cars on the Daytona track.
Yeah, history-making night indeed, steeped in tradition. We threw it back to the 80s with some trivia, with some 1987 cars, and a little bit of history about those cars tonight. Looking through the results for tonight, we talked to the top three, Sullivan, Sox, and Raff. Barry, with a shot to win, has to settle for fourth tonight. Tom Lickard, after some early trouble, winds up with a top five. Great recovery for him. Josh Cruz in sixth. Aiden O'Neill also. Several drivers who kind of worked their way back from adversity up in the top 10. Josh Ward settles for eighth after a last lap wreck involving Scotty Sobczak, who finishes 10th. They're a sandwich around Scott Schrader, who finishes ninth tonight. 11th was James Ledford. We heard about him from Joseph Sullivan. Teammates trying to work together. Worked out for Joseph, didn't work for James as well. Flanagan, a contender most of the night. David Flanagan finishes 12th in that 23 Taco Bell machine. No 12 packs for folks tonight. Sorry to ruin the celebration. Cliff Adams, we saw him run up front, but also tagged the wall a couple times. 98 has to settle for 13th. Sam Oliver, Super Speedway 87 Virtuoso, started second, almost made his way back up through the field, but caught in a near end of the race crash, settles for 14th. Steve Vest fights his way back for 15th tonight. Josh Ryan with early damage had to pit for repairs, finishes 16th. Sidarius Purse with what I think was the best paint scheme of the night. That purple Prowler finishes in the 17th position. Anthony Green up front much of the night, settles for 18th after a two-car incident in the late goings of the race. Beyer also involved in that. Jeff finishes 19th. Noah Blackwell rounds out the top 20 with Julian Mata. Started 21st, finished 21st in the 21 car. Shane Coker 22nd, and then Patrick O'Toole finishes last in 23rd tonight after being involved in that first lap incident. Guys, this was just a great race all around. We really didn't know what to expect for an 80-lap race in these 87s. We shout out to Votive Racing League and Shane Coker for putting on this Sunset Showdown, kind of a one-off event. There'll be more of these to come. We'll broadcast more of the Votive Racing League races on this channel, but for all of those of you who tuned in tonight, cannot thank you enough. We're big about giving back here at Slingshot Racing to the fans who really help us put on these great shows. Two prizes going out tonight I want to talk about briefly. We had the trivia. We'll do that again in future races. 80s trivia was won by J-Dub tonight. We're going to send him a 1/64th scale car. And then the big giveaway for tonight that's been going on for the past 3 weeks or so, and it won't be the last one of these. We were giving away an autographed Dale Earnhardt Jr. 1/24th scale Olympic car from the year 2000, throwing it back to the Olympics a little bit. We have drawn our winner, and that was Lloyd Ferguson, who won. They will be contacted. We'll ship that diecast out to them free of charge. Congratulations. And Chris, a little birdie told me we might be giving away another Dale Earnhardt Jr. autographed 1/24th scale diecast in just maybe over a month or so. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to Slingshot Racing Media so you get all that news and updates about giveaways and live events when they happen, so you can tune in and be part of the action. If you haven't done that yet, hit that subscribe button right now. And if you're already subscribed or you don't want to, even though it doesn't make any sense, it doesn't cost you anything, hit that like button. That really doesn't cost you anything. You might never hear from us again, but you at least help get our video up in the searches a little bit. So we appreciate everyone who tuned in tonight at Daytona. Shout out to Whiplash Sim Cams. You saw that logo on the screen multiple times tonight. You can find a link to their website in the YouTube video description. All the beautiful shots tonight, definitely made possible by Chris, but he was using Whiplash Sim Cams, who really took this broadcast to the next level tonight. Chris, just amazing job using those cameras and everything else at your disposal to do a great race tonight.
Appreciate it. Yeah, this was a great product, and really glad to be partnered up with them, and into the future as well. The shots that you saw out here on the track tonight. We were talking about in the pre-race, I had to change the way in which my layout is because I just have a lot more options now than I've ever had. So yeah, definitely great product and great partner.
Man, it was a blast, and another new addition to the booth tonight, Daniel Polish Jr. We can't thank you enough for coming in and joining us for this. You did a great race in your first broadcast with us. Great analysis along the way. I felt like it really helped fans kind of understand what was going on. So big shout out to you. Thank you, Daniel. And everyone else who helped make this possible. Shout out to the fans. We're going to be back. We're going to be broadcasting a league starting in October and probably another one in November. More news about that to follow. But if you want live racing, we do NASCAR Heat 5 career mode streams. We're going to have some other live streams going on of racing games in the coming weeks. Make sure to check out all that content that you have access to on our YouTube. For Slingshot Racing Media, it was the voted Sunset Showdown 200 from Daytona, won by Joseph Sullivan. For Chris Smith, Ellis Thomas, and Daniel Polish Jr., so long from Daytona, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.